Hey everyone, today we're diving into a really big topic, opioids. Now, you've probably heard a lot about them, but we're not just talking about pain relief or addiction. We're going to uncover a hidden and, frankly, a pretty shocking side effect, what these powerful drugs are actually doing to your sleep.
So, why is this such a big deal? Well, to really wrap your head around it, you first have to understand the massive, and I mean massive, scale of opioid use.
Get this, just between 1997 and 2004, the average amount of prescribed oxycodone in the US just exploded. It increased by a staggering 7.3 times. That's not a small bump. That's a seismic shift in just 7 years.
And we're not talking about a small, niche group of people here. Opioids are used right across the board. You've got patients managing chronic pain from something like cancer, people needing it for acute pain after an injury, it's used in anesthesia, in long-term methadone treatments, and of course, there's illicit use too. It's everywhere.
This slide really starts to paint the picture of long-term use. I mean, look at this. Back in the late 90s, the US had over 140,000 people just on methadone maintenance. Australia had 30,000. And that's just one type of long-term treatment. It just goes to show how widespread chronic opioid use really is. Okay, so we have millions of people taking these drugs. What in the world does that have to do with sleep? Well, the answer, it turns out, is hidden deep inside our own biology. And here it is. This is the big clue. This is the key to the whole mystery. The parts of our brain that are built to respond to opioids. They're located in the exact same spots, the same neighborhoods, as the parts that control our sleep. They are literally next-door neighbors in our brain.
And to get a little more specific, we're talking about something called mu-opioid receptors. Just think of them as these little docking stations in your brain, and they're the main target for drugs like morphine and fentanyl. Now, we know they're great for pain relief, but here's the catch. They also have their hands in controlling our breathing, and you guessed it, messing with our sleep.
So here's the crucial point. When opioids activate these receptors, they don't just turn off pain signals. They go a step further. They fundamentally change the very structure, the whole architecture of how we sleep. But what does that really mean to disrupt your sleep architecture? What's actually happening to your body when you're supposed to be resting and recovering? Okay, so here's the problem in a nutshell. Healthy sleep isn't just one thing. You cycle through different stages, like deep, restorative, slow-wave sleep, and REM sleep. Both are absolutely vital. But when you're on opioids, both of those critical stages get dramatically cut down. So it's not just making you feel drowsy, it's actively robbing you of the most important parts of sleep. And if you're thinking, well, maybe your body just gets used to it, think again. The research is pretty clear on this. This disruption is persistent. It happens when you first start taking the drugs, it keeps happening during long-term use, and it can even continue when you're going through withdrawal. As if having your sleep completely disrupted wasn't bad enough, this is where the story takes a much more dangerous turn. We need to talk about what opioids do to the most basic thing our body does during sleep: breathing.
Check this out. It's a really startling statistic. In studies of patients who are on stable, long-term, medically supervised opioid treatment, a full 30% of them were found to have central sleep apnea. That's nearly 1 in every 3 people.
So, what is central sleep apnea? It's not the kind you usually hear about, where something is blocking your airway. No, this is different. This is when the brain itself just fails. It fails to send the right signals to the muscles that make you breathe. Your brain literally forgets to tell your body to breathe, over and over again, all night long. And the danger doesn't even stop there. Opioids also weaken your body's built-in emergency alarms. You know, the ones that are supposed to go off if your oxygen gets too low or carbon dioxide gets too high. And this effect is so profound, it can even be passed on, with infants of substance-abusing mothers facing a 5 to 10 times higher risk of SIDS. Okay, so our final section brings us to what might be the most sobering and, honestly, surprising conclusion of this whole thing. This is a direct quote from the clinical review this explainer is based on, and that word, paucity, it just means a scarcity, a severe lack of something. It is sobering to realize just how little human data we actually have on this topic. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. We know that opioids suppress breathing. That's a fact. And we know millions of people use them every single day. And yet there is a shocking lack of modern research into what exactly happens to all those people when they go to sleep at night.
This timeline really puts it into perspective. Most of the important studies on this were done before the 1990s. Then you see prescriptions for drugs like oxycodone go through the roof. But the research, it just didn't keep up. So today, we're left with this massive gap in our medical knowledge, basically relying on old data to understand a very modern problem. And so, we're left with this one final, really unsettling question. With millions of people all over the world relying on these powerful drugs, some for pain, some cause an addiction, why on earth do we know so little about what they do to one of our most fundamental, vital biological functions?